It was just another quiet night at home. Until something appeared at the back door. My wife was out of town and the kids were asleep upstairs. I should have been relaxed, but something felt off. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds, each one louder than the last. I tried to focus on the book in my hands, but my mind kept wandering. I glanced out the window, seeing nothing but the inky blackness of the night. The silence was almost deafening. A chill ran down my spine and I rubbed my arms to ward off the sudden cold. Something was definitely not right. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest, and walked cautiously towards the back door. What was out there? Just the house settling, right? Old houses do that all the time. But this felt different. It was a deep, resonant thump that seemed to echo through the walls, almost as if something heavy had been dropped in the attic. David's heart raced as he strained to listen. The silence that followed was deafening, amplifying his growing unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. What? What the hell is that? He whispered to himself, his voice barely audible. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as he slowly turned towards the back door, where he thought he saw a flicker of movement. He took a cautious step forward, his eyes straining to pierce the darkness. The thump came again, louder this time, and unmistakably closer. David's breath caught in his throat as he realized something was watching him. Staring back at him, just beyond the door, were eyes. Not human, not animal, something else. They glowed with an eerie green light, piercing through the darkness like twin beacons of dread. He could feel their gaze, cold and unblinking, sending shivers down his spine. The eyes seemed to float in the void, detached from any recognizable form. He took a hesitant step closer, his heart pounding in his chest. The air grew colder and a sense of foreboding washed over him. What could those eyes belong to? He reached out a trembling hand towards the door, the glowing eyes never wavering. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of his own ragged breathing. Those eyes, they didn't blink, didn't move, they just stared. It was as if they were peering into my very soul, dissecting every thought, every fear, every hidden secret. The darkness around them seemed to pulse with a life of its own, amplifying the eerie glow of those unblinking eyes. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing in the silence of the night. I felt like I was being watched by something ancient. It wasn't just the feeling of being observed. It was as if this presence had been there for centuries, waiting, watching. The air around me grew colder, and I could almost hear whispers, faint and indistinguishable, as if carried by the wind from a time long past. David was frozen, gripped by fear. His eyes were wide, his breath shallow. He had never felt such an intense, paralyzing terror before. It was as if his body had betrayed him, refusing to obey his desperate commands to move. The fear was not just in his mind, it had seeped into his very bones, rendering him immobile. His instinct was to run, but something about those eyes held him in place. It was a primal fear, one that spoke to the deepest, most ancient parts of his brain. Every fibre of his being screamed at him to flee, to escape the unseen danger, but he couldn't. It was as if those eyes had cast a spell on him, binding him to the spot, like they were calling to him. There was a strange, almost hypnotic pull to those eyes. They seemed to beckon him, to draw him closer despite the overwhelming fear. It was a call that resonated deep within him, a call that he couldn't ignore. He felt a compulsion to step forward, to move towards the source of his terror, even though every rational part of his mind screamed at him to resist. Who? Who's out there? My voice trembled as I called out, the words barely more than a whisper. The silence that followed was deafening, amplifying the sound of my own heartbeat. I strained my ears, hoping for a response, but there was nothing. Just the oppressive silence and those eyes, always those eyes, watching, waiting. I wanted to look away, to close the door, but I couldn't. My hand hovered over the doorknob, trembling with fear. It would be so easy to shut the door, to block out those eyes and the terror they brought. But something stopped me. It was as if an invisible force held me back, compelling me to keep the door open, to face whatever lay beyond. It was like those eyes had a hold on me. They were more than just eyes. They were a presence, a force that reached out and wrapped itself around my mind. I could feel their grip tightening, pulling me deeper into the darkness. The fear was overwhelming, but there was also a strange sense of inevitability, as if this moment had been destined, as if I had always been meant to face those eyes in the dark. They had already seen him, already chosen him. David could feel their gaze, piercing through the darkness, locking onto his very soul. The air around him grew colder, and a shiver ran down his spine. He knew he was not alone. They didn't need to move. Their presence was enough to paralyze him with fear. The eyes, glowing eerily in the pitch-black night, seemed to communicate a silent, sinister message. David's mind raced, trying to comprehend the malevolent force that had singled him out. The eyes hadn't moved. They remained fixed on him, unblinking, unwavering. It was as if they were waiting for something, some signal or action from him. The intensity of their stare made his skin crawl, and he felt an overwhelming urge to run, but his legs refused to obey. But as he reached the front door, he stopped. His hand hovered over the doorknob, trembling. The thought of stepping outside into the unknown filled him with dread. He could hear his own heartbeat, loud and frantic, echoing in his ears. The decision to flee or confront weighed heavily on him. David fled, heart pounding, sweat pouring down his face. He sprinted through the house, his mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Every shadow seemed to move, every creak of the floorboards amplified his terror. He had to get away, but where could he go? The eyes were everywhere, watching, waiting, but whatever was out there, it wasn't leaving. The presence outside was relentless, a dark silhouette against the window, unmoving yet menacing. It seemed to be biding its time, knowing that David had nowhere to hide. The sense of impending doom grew stronger with each passing second. The kids were safe, thank God. In their room, they slept peacefully, unaware of the terror that gripped their father. David's only solace was knowing that they were out of harm's way, at least for now. He couldn't let whatever was out there get to them. He had to protect them at all costs. It wasn't trying to enter. It was waiting. The figure outside seemed to have all the time in the world, its patience unnerving. David could feel its malevolent intent, a dark energy that seeped through the walls and into his very being. He knew he had to act, but what could he do against such an unknown force? What do you want? His voice trembled as he spoke, barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the figure remained silent. The only response was the continued, unblinking stare of those eyes, filled with a darkness that seemed to consume all hope. David's fear turned to desperation as he realized he might never get an answer. Maybe it's gone. Come closer. That night, David realized sometimes curiosity isn't worth the risk. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. The glowing green eyes had vanished, but the fear lingered, whispering, "Is it really gone?" David couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He decided to stay vigilant, just in case. The night was long, filled with uneasy silence. As dawn approached, David finally felt a sense of relief. Softly, maybe now it's truly over. But deep down, he knew the memory of those eyes would haunt him forever. What would you do if you saw glowing eyes at your window? Imagine the chill running down your spine as you realize those eyes are fixed on you, unblinking, in the dead of night. Would you freeze in fear, or would you muster the courage to investigate? Comment below with your thoughts. If you crave more spine-tingling stories and eerie encounters, hit the subscribe button. Join a community of thrill seekers and horror enthusiasts who love to delve into the unknown. And don't forget to turn on notifications, because you never know what's watching you. Picture this: you're alone at home, the lights are dim, and suddenly you hear a faint tapping on your window. Your heart races as you slowly turn to look. only to see those same glowing eyes staring back at you. What would you do next? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Our channel brings you the most chilling tales from around the world. From ghost stories to unexplained phenomena, we cover it all. If you have a story to share or a topic you'd like us to explore, let us know in the comments. Stay curious, stay brave, and keep watching. You never know what might be lurking just outside your window. Pause 3S. Just when you think the terror has subsided, the nightmare resumes. The house is quiet, almost too quiet. You try to shake off the unease, but it lingers like a shadow that refuses to leave. Pause 2S. Suddenly the tapping on the window starts again, louder this time. Your breath catches in your throat. You muster the courage to peek through the curtains, only to find nothing. The eyes are gone, but the feeling of being watched remains. Pause 3S. You turn away, trying to convince yourself it's all in your head. But then, the sound of footsteps echoes through the hallway, slow and deliberate. They stop just outside your door. You hold your breath, waiting for the next move. The door handle rattles, and your heart pounds in your chest. Pause 3S. You grab your phone, fumbling to dial for help, but the screen goes black. Panic sets in. The footsteps start again, this time moving away from your door. You gather your courage and decide to follow, determined to uncover the source of this haunting. Pause 3S. As you step into the hallway, the lights flicker, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air grows colder and you can see your breath. You reach the end of the hallway and find an old, weathered door that you've never noticed before. Pause 2S. With trembling hands, you push it open. The door creaks, revealing a hidden room filled with old, dusty furniture and forgotten memories. In the corner, you see a mirror covered with a tattered cloth. You pull the cloth away, and for a split second, you see the glowing green eyes staring back at you from the reflection. Pause 3S. The mirror shatters, and you're plunged into darkness. The haunting isn't over, it's only just begun. Stay tuned, because in our next video, we'll uncover the secrets behind this chilling encounter. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on the spine-tingling tales that lie ahead. And remember, the next time you hear a strange noise in the night, it might just be more than your imagination. Pause 3S. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep watching. You never know what might be lurking just outside your window. The hidden room is plunged into darkness, but you can still feel the presence of those glowing green eyes. You take a deep breath, trying to steady your nerves. You reach for your phone again, hoping for some light, but it's still dead. The only option is to confront whatever is haunting you. You slowly make your way towards the shattered mirror, each step echoing in the eerie silence. Suddenly, the temperature drops even further, and a cold breeze brushes against your skin. You hear a whisper, almost too faint to make out, but it sends shivers down your spine. The words are unintelligible, but the malice is unmistakable. Gathering all your courage, you call out, "Who's there?" The room responds with a low growl, and you feel a rush of air as if something unseen has moved past you. You turn around, and there, in the dim light, you see the outline of a figure. It's tall, with long, claw-like fingers and those terrifying green eyes. The figure moves closer, and you brace yourself for the worst. But then, you notice something strange. The eyes, though menacing, seem to hold a hint of sadness. You muster the courage to speak again. "What do you want?" The figure pauses, and for a moment the room is silent. Then, in a voice that sounds like it's coming from the depths of the earth, it replies, "Release me." Confused, you ask, "How?" The figure points to the shattered mirror. You realize that the mirror is the key to ending this nightmare. You gather the broken pieces and arrange them on the floor. The eyes watch you intently, and you can feel their grip on your soul loosening. As you place the last shard, a blinding light fills the room. The figure lets out a final anguished cry before dissolving into the light. When the light fades, the room is back to normal. The cold, the fear, the eyes, all gone. You take a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace wash over you. The haunting is finally over. As you leave the hidden room, you can't help but wonder about the stories behind the eyes. Who or what was that figure? And why was it trapped? Those are questions for another time. For now, you can rest easy knowing that you faced your fears and come out victorious. Thank you for joining us on this terrifying journey. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next adventure. And remember, sometimes the scariest things are the ones we can't see. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep watching. You never know what might be lurking just outside your window. Pause 3S. As the haunting comes to an end, you step out of the hidden room, your heart still racing from the encounter. The house feels different now, lighter, as if a heavy weight has been lifted. Pause 2S. You walk through the hallways, the memories of the glowing green eyes and the ghostly figure still fresh in your mind. Pause 3S. You reach the living room and sink into the old armchair, letting out a long sigh of relief. The silence that once felt oppressive now feels comforting. Pause 2S. The questions linger though. Who was the figure? Why was it trapped? And what was its connection to the shattered mirror? Pause 3S. You pull out your journal and begin to write down everything that happened. Each detail, every feeling, hoping that by putting it into words you might find some answers. Pause 2S. As you write, you can't shake the feeling that this isn't the end, that there are more secrets hidden within these walls, waiting to be uncovered. Pause 3S. You decide to do some research on the house's history, hoping to find clues about the previous owners and any other strange occurrences. Pause 2ES. Days turn into weeks as you dive deeper into the mystery, uncovering old records, newspaper clippings, and forgotten diaries. Each piece of information brings you closer to understanding the figure and its tragic past. Pause 3S. You discover that the house was once owned by a family who mysteriously disappeared one night, leaving behind only the shattered mirror and rumors of dark rituals. Pause 2S. The more you learn, the more you realize that the figure was a victim, trapped by forces beyond its control. Your fear turns to empathy, and you feel a sense of responsibility to ensure that such a fate never befalls another soul. Pause 3S. You decide to contact paranormal experts and historians, sharing your findings and seeking their guidance. Together you work to uncover the truth and bring peace to the restless spirits. Pause 2S. In the end, the house becomes a place of healing, where people come to confront their fears and find closure. Pause 3S. As you stand in front of the house, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You've not only faced your fears, but also helped others do the same. Pause 2S. The haunting may be over, but the journey continues, and with each step you grow stronger, braver, and more curious about the mysteries that lie ahead. Pause 3S. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next adventure. And remember, sometimes the answers we seek are found in the most unexpected places. Pause 2S. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep exploring. You never know what you might discover.